Good morning, everyone. Welcome in to this Facebook Live as a lot of news being made over the last couple of days in regards to the state's progress toward reopening and getting the economy going again. Of course, the governor has the Accelerate SC group that is looking at the best way forward to safely reopen South Carolina. And during that meeting yesterday, when they got together, the United States Senators, Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott, were both in attendance. And Tim Scott, the senator, whose home is in North Charleston, glad you're with us because so many questions coming out of this yesterday, Senator Scott, because uh, uh, the first big thing that I think a lot of people are wondering is when do we get back to normal and how close are we?
Well, Brad, I think we're closer today than we were yesterday. We'll be closer tomorrow than we are today. I think we're moving progressively, yet slowly, in the right direction of getting back to probably a new sense of normal. And then at some point, it'll feel like the old days again. I think that's sometime in July, frankly. I think the new normal begins within the next week or two. And then it will steadily and progressively move in the direction of the old normal. We've got to continue to do what we have been doing, which is flattening the curve. The challenge of flattening the curve is we've flattened our economy. So finding a way to manage the healthcare crisis and the economic tsunami, critical for us to get that right. I think we will get that right. So far, the slow progression towards outside dining, opening up more retail, those are good signs, and it's important that we're doing it in the way that the governor's laid out. If you think about the president's mandates uh, from a percentage basis, fewer cases based on the total. Hospital capacity today is more than it was at the beginning of the crisis. Our ability to isolate hotspots and mitigate the spread of the virus, those are the three phases. I think we are at least in phase one and not quite in phase two, and the governor's not moving too quickly. So that's good news as well.
You talk about restaurants reopening, retail starting to reopen. There comes this, I don't know if it was unforeseen is the right word, or if just one of those hazards along the way with the stimulus, and that is the extra $600 a week from the federal government that folks are getting who are on unemployment. And frankly, there are a lot of people who are making more money on unemployment right now than they did before this happened. And look, what person in their right mind is going to want to go back to work and take a pay cut?
Yeah. Brad, you asked a very important question. One of the questions I raised at the beginning of phase three was the question you just asked. And my answer was the same question, same answer I hear in your voice, at least. No one, actually. People want to work. If you'll pay them more to stay home, they'll stay home. And that's something I brought up at the beginning. I had an amendment along with Lindsey Graham to pay people the maximum of what they're making while they're working, so that there's not a perverse incentive to stay home longer because you're making more unemployed than you are employed. That is just a bad decision. We tried to yank that out. We could not get enough votes. We think we were 8 votes shy of paying people 100% of their pay. No more. That failed. We're going to try again to make sure that we pay people 100% because of the coronavirus. This is such an unusual place that we find ourselves. So if I can get you what you were making while you were working, that should be the maximum that you're eligible for.
Senator Graham brought up an interesting point yesterday at the meeting. It's like it puts the employer in a really bad spot because you open the business, you start bringing your workers back, they don't come back. Now you're in this fight with your employee over whether you should come back, whether your job's going to be there, and it puts everybody in a bad spot.
It does, and it's one of the reasons why when we were on the floor trying to get this amendment passed, we pointed that out. I was a business owner. I know that most often small businesses see their employees as an extension of their family, and so the tension that is between the relationship is real. You want me to do what? You want me to come back to work for less, and you know I can make more until July 31st? That just seems hard, and it is hard. The only good news I would say is on the other side of July 31st, if you want to have a job, then you have to help the job be there by going to work. So it is a unhealthy place that the legislation put our employers and employees. We tried to avoid that. We voted to avoid that. We amended the legislation. We could not get the 8 additional votes that we needed.
But meanwhile, is it working as far as the idea of stimulus is that you stimulate the economy? Are folks doing things with that money that's helping the rest? Maybe that extra money is going back into another small business.
Yeah, but I've tried not to use the word stimulus because I'm not sure that we are actually encouraging more economic activity. I look at it as stability. Have we stabilized families who were on the verge of falling off of a financial cliff? The answer is without question, unequivocally, yes. We have certainly stabilized families in a way that very few other things we could have done would do during this time. So the $1,200 stability checks have actually stabilized. We had a 4.8% contraction in our economy. That tells me that we have not done enough to lift that boat. We haven't gotten to a place where the water's rising yet, but that will happen. We've done what we needed to do, which was focus first on the healthcare crisis. Now the economic tsunami that was created by the healthcare crisis is something we have to focus on. We are there. I'm a big believer that the next iteration of our economy has to be an incentive-based economy where we provide tax incentives for business travel, for businesses and for folks to eat out at restaurants, mostly businesses, by the way, and rooms. We need to get more folks' heads in beds in our hotels throughout South Carolina. We're a tourist-driven economy, and we're going to have to encourage people to get back out into the marketplace. 3 ways to do that. Number 1, the incentive-based economy. Number 2, having enough tests that people feel comfortable interacting with others. And then number 3, we have to eliminate the liability exposure for businesses as it relates to who's responsible if someone says that they got the coronavirus based on where they work or where they shop. That's something we're going to have to solve as well.
It's already started. North Carolina's got some issues with some of the meat plants. I want to take us back to small businesses because that was your lifeblood coming up. Small businesses, that's where you live. The PPP program. There are small business owners who really got stiffed out of the first round. They're still working their way through the second round. Is it enough, or is it too little, too late?
It's not enough, actually. I think we need more PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. We need to expand it a little bit more. We need to continue to target it to make sure that the Main Street folks like me, when I was a small business owner, I had under 10 employees. I had 3 different businesses, all built from scratch, which meant that I was the HR director, I was the legal department, I was the CPA, I was also the guy making the widgets, or insurance or real estate. But the truth of the matter is, if you think about that person, adding more burden on that individual is not helpful for businesses to thrive. So in the first tranche, we had 1.6 million businesses get resources committed. I helped about 30 million employees. Remember that the Paycheck Protection Program, it's not about the employer, it is about the employees. The second round, the average loan is smaller. So the first round was close to 200,000. Right now it's under 100,000, which means that we are closer and closer to Main Street, the mom and pop businesses like the one I ran. I'm excited about the fact that we're helping businesses. I did a call with credit unions and bankers the last couple of days, and they both say in South Carolina, the average loan is well under $100,000, which means that we are really hitting the target. And that's good news in the last several weeks.
As we talk about these astronomical numbers in these programs, you can't help but think, wow, where's that coming from? We're going to eventually pay for this somehow down the road. How far can we kick that can before we stare at a real problem?
Well, there's a number of us that have already started that conversation about don't kick it any further than you have to. And right now, we're looking at ways to incentivize our economic activity that leads to more money to the Treasury, which also then allows us to use that money targeted towards debt repayment. If we do that right, then what I've learned through our 2017 tax cuts is fairly controversial for some folks, very excited about for other folks. What we've learned, however, is that with the incentive of lower taxes, we actually received more money to the federal treasury than we had in years past. So what we're going to have to do is look at a combination of things to build this incentive-based economy nationwide. And as we do so, I think you'll see more money coming into the Treasury. And what we ought to do this time around is to take that money and target it, not for new programs, not for an expansion of government, not for anything other than reducing the debt. So I think we're going to have to target our economic activity and the growth to make sure that we not only stabilize our current economic state, but perhaps primarily that we start nicking away at this debt that has been accumulated. We had no choice but to do it, but now it's time to be responsible. As we come out of this, we're going to have a plan to move this nation forward without waiting 2 generations to pay this thing back.
Before I let you go, I wanted to circle back to your Opportunity Zone program has been, by all indications, a success. Now this happens. How does an economic slowdown like this impact the opportunity zones? You wrote about them in your book, Opportunity Knocks, detailing why you decided to do this and push that legislation forward. It was really at the forefront of your mind when this whole thing started in the Senate for you. What happens to that program? What is it? Is it actually a blessing in disguise because there will be opportunities for people to invest, or is this going to be hitting that program just as hard?
Well, the good news, Brad, is that the program has about $67 billion that has been placed in opportunity funds. The expenditures from those funds have slowed down drastically because of the pandemic. What we need to do is to get those dollars rolling out. The good news is we're only talking about private sector dollars, so no government dollars are part of the program. So we're talking about entrepreneurs, investors, business folks who are willing to invest in the distressed communities around our country. If we're going to see the kind of recovery we're looking at, it's going to have to be an incentive base. The best model for incentive-based activity is the opportunity zones. I hope to see that activity starting to percolate again in the next 2 or 3 months. I've heard of projects that are coming our way over the next, hopefully 90 days, that will be really strong opportunities around the country, specifically rural America. We'll see billions of dollars flowing into the coffers of our rural America, to include parts of rural South Carolina. So more to come. I'm excited that we are now looking at the incentive-based approach. And if that works as well as it has so far in the past, I think we'll be better off in the future. Thank you, Brad.
Go ahead.
I was a thank you, Brad, for you've been a low country figure for a long time, and I am thankful to have known you for so long. And you got these cute little kids. Your wife must be beautiful. So God bless you, and keep smiling. And keep the faith. We need optimism right now more than ever, and I'm glad that you're a part of that optimistic, forward-leaning person in our community. God bless.
Appreciate that. Senator Scott joining us from his home in North Charleston. We'll catch up soon. Thanks for your time. A lot of stuff to talk about out of that. Senator Scott hoping that we can get this thing back on track in our state quickly, and we appear to be headed that way. And all indications are right now, we heard that Governor Henry McMaster is possibly going to be opening up outside dining at restaurants as early as this coming Monday, and then dine in would then follow about 2 weeks later. But again, the hurdle there that a lot of these restaurant owners are going to be facing is that unforeseen issue with the program for unemployment, where these workers are getting an extra $600 a week from the federal government, and that boosts their overall. People who are maxing out at $329 from the state, you're looking at $900+ a week in overall pay and unemployment. And that's the hurdle that these employers are going to have to face as we try to get the economy going again. That extra $600 a week, by the way, runs out July 31st. Senator Lindsey Graham, and you just heard Senator Scott saying that they are going to fight to eliminate and cap that at the wages that they were making prior to that. And that's not just in the restaurant sector, that's in all sectors of work. We'll see what happens there as we move forward. I'm going to send it back to Facebook and let you scroll along. Make sure you join Temple on News 2 midday